When Osato returned home from work, he immediately noticed something was wrong. The house was unusually quiet, and the usual cooing sound of Efosa were absent. He walked into the living room and saw Ivy unpacking the groceries. "Ivy, where is Efosa?" he asked, panic rising in his voice. Ivy looked around, her face going pale as realization dawned on her. "Oh no, I forgot her at the supermarket." Osato and Ivie were a couple deeply in love. They had met during their university days, where Osato was studying engineering and Ivie was pursuing a degree in business administration. Their love story began with a chance encounter at a campus event, where they both reached for the same book at the library, sparking a conversation that lasted hours. From that moment, their bond grew stronger, and soon they were inseparable. Their wedding was a grand celebration, the culmination of years of love and commitment. Friends and family gathered to witness their union, filling the air with laughter and joy. Ivy looked radiant in her gown, while Osato couldn't take his eyes off her. The reception was lively, with dancing, heartfelt speeches, and endless toasts to their future. It was a day they both cherished, a beautiful beginning to their life together. Just a few months after their wedding, Ivy started to feel unwell. At first, she thought it was just the stress of settling into married life. But when the symptoms persisted, she decided to take a pregnancy test. The positive result left her in disbelief. She rushed to Osato, her eyes wide with excitement. "Osato, I am pregnant," she exclaimed, holding up the test. Osato's face lit up with smile. "Really? Wow, this is so amazing, Evie." The news brought immense happiness to the both of them. They immediately began to make plans for the future as parents. Osato took extra care of Ivy, ensuring she ate well and rested enough. He often talked to her belly, telling stories and making promises to their unborn child. Ivy, on the other hand, was filled with dreams and excitement. She imagined rocking matching outfits with her child, envisioning the beautiful moments they would share. She spent hours browsing baby clothes and nursery decorations, planning everything down to the smallest detail. She loved talking about her dreams with Osato, who listened patiently and shared her excitement. "I can't wait to dress our baby in this cute little outfit," Ivy said one evening, holding up a tiny onesie. Osato chuckled. "Our baby will be the most stylish kid around with the kind of mother he has." She smiled. As the months passed, Ivy's belly grew and so did their anticipation. They attended prenatal classes, listening and learning everything they could about childbirth and parenting. Each ultrasound visit was a magical experience. Seeing their baby move and hearing the heartbeat, it made their dreams even feel more real. Their families were equally thrilled. Ivy's mother often visited, bringing homemade meals and offering advice. Osato's parents called frequently, eager to hear updates. The entire family was ready to welcome the newest member, and their excitement was infectious. Despite the usual challenges of pregnancy, Ivy handled everything with grace. She loved feeling the baby kick and move inside of her, a constant reminder of the life growing within. Osato was always by her side, offering her support and constant encouragement. "You're going to be an amazing mother, Ivy," he would say, kissing her forehead. "And you'll be the best father to our baby," she replied, smiling. Their love for each other and their unborn child grew stronger with each passing day. The months quickly flew by, and soon it was time for Ivy to give birth. The labor was long and exhausting, but Osato was by Ivy's side the entire time, holding her hand and whispering words of encouragement. When the baby finally arrived, their hearts swelled with joy. They named their beautiful baby girl Efosa, which means God's gift in their native Edo language. The first few days were a whirlwind of activity. Family and friends visited, bringing gifts and well wishes. The house was filled with flowers, baby clothes, and soft blankets. Ivy and Osato were overjoyed, taking turns holding baby Efosa and marveling at her tiny fingers and toes. Ivy was thrilled, her heart full of love for their little girl. I can't believe she's finally here, Ivy said, gazing down at Efosa's sleeping face. She's so perfect, Osato replied, gently stroking Efosa's cheek. As the days turned into weeks, the initial excitement began to settle into a routine. Osato returned to work, leaving Ivy to care for Efosa during the day. At first, everything seemed fine. Ivy enjoyed dressing Efosa in adorable outfits she had picked during their pregnancy. She loved watching her sleep and listening to her cooing sounds. But gradually, Osato began to notice changes in Ivy. She seemed more tired and less enthusiastic. She would often sit silently, staring off into the space. When Efosa cried, Ivy would hesitate before picking her up. Sometimes she would leave the room altogether, leaving Osato to soothe their daughter. One evening, as Osato was feeding Efosa, he noticed Ivy sitting on the couch, her face blank and expressionless. "My love, are you okay?" he asked, concerned. "I'm just so tired," she replied, not meeting his gaze. Osato wanted to believe her, but he couldn't ignore the growing distance between them. Ivy, who once couldn't stop talking about their baby, now seemed withdrawn and uninterested. She often refused to feed Efosa, leaving Osato to take over. When Efosa cried in the middle of the night, Ivy would roll over and pretend not to hear the cries. The situation worsened over the next few weeks. Ivy started spending more time in bed, barely interacting with Efosa. When Osato came home from work, he would find Ivy and Efosa, both of them crying. It broke his heart to see his wife so distant and their daughter so distressed. "Ivy, you need to hold her. She's been crying," Osato said gently one evening, handing Efosa to her. "I can't," Ivy replied, her voice shaking. "I just can't." Osato was confused and worried. Ivy, once so full of life, seemed to be sinking into deep sadness. The woman, who used to laugh and chat about their future, now barely spoke. She often left Efosa crying in her crib, staring blankly at the wall instead of soothing her. The baby's cries echoed through the house, a constant reminder of the growing gap between mother and child. Osato did everything he could to help. He woke up early to prepare breakfast and made sure Efosa was fed before heading to work. He hired a nanny to watch over Efosa during the day, hoping it would ease Ivy's burden, but even with the extra help, she remained distant and had to send her away. "Maybe it's just a phase," Osato told himself, trying to stay positive, but deep down, he knew it was more than that. One evening, as Osato was soothing Efosa, Ivy sat on the edge of the bed, tears streaming down her face. "Osato, I don't understand what's happening to me," she said, her voice breaking. "I love our child, but I feel so disconnected from her. I don't want to be around her at all." Osato's heart ached seeing his wife in such pain. He took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "We will find a way, my love," he reassured her, though he felt helpless himself. "We will get through this together." Despite his words, the strain was becoming overwhelming. Osato's job was demanding, and he often brought work home with him. Balancing his career with the need of his family was taking a toll. He found himself staying up late to finish projects, only to be woken up in the middle of the night by Efosa's cries. One night, Osato returned home to find both Ivy and Efosa crying. Ivy was sitting on the floor, holding her head in her hands, while Efosa wailed in the crib. Ivy, what's wrong? Osato asked, rushing to her side. I forgot to feed her again, Ivy sobbed. She was crying and I just couldn't bring myself to pick her up. Osato felt a wave of frustration and sadness. He picked up Efosa and rocked her gently until she calmed down. It's okay, Ivy, he said softly, we'll figure this out. But figuring it out was easier said than done. The days blurred all together in a haze of sleepless nights and frantic mornings. Osato tried to keep everything together, but the weight of it all was starting to break him. At work, his colleagues noticed the change. The once vibrant and energetic engineer now appeared tired and distracted. His boss had called him into the office one afternoon. Osato, is everything at home? He asked, concern etched on his face. It's been a tough few months, Osato admitted. My wife is struggling with the new baby and I'm trying to manage everything. Okay, you should always take some time off if you need, his boss suggested. Family comes first after all. Osato nodded, grateful for the understanding. He knew he needed to do something before the situation got worse. That evening, he sat down with Ivie and gently took her hand. My darling, we need to get help, he said softly. This isn't something we can handle on our own. Ivie looked up at him, her eyes filled with despair. I don't know if I can do this, Osato. I don't know. You don't have to do it alone, he replied. We are in this together. The next day, Osato made an appointment with their family doctor. He knew it was the first step towards finding a solution, but he also knew the road ahead would be long and challenging. As he looked at Ivy, he vowed to do whatever it took to help her heal and bring their family back together. Concerned for her well-being, he took her to the hospital. They sat in the waiting room. The sterile smell and the low hum of voices created a tense atmosphere. Osato held Ivy's hand, trying to offer her comfort, but he could feel her trembling. He squeezed her hand tightly. We are going to get through this, Ivy, he whispered. Finally, they were called into the doctor's office. Dr. Aigboje, a kind-looking man, greeted them warmly. He asked them to sit and began by taking a detailed medical history. Ivy hesitated at first, but with Osato's encouragement, she slowly opened up about her feelings and struggles. I feel so disconnected from Efosa, Ivy admitted, tears welling up in her eyes. I don't know, sometimes I just feel this hate towards her, and sometimes I even feel like hurting her. Altogether, I find it so difficult to even recognize myself. Dr. Aigboje listened intently, nodding occasionally as he took notes. After a thorough examination and a series of tests, he sat back and looked at Ivy and Osato with a sympathetic expression. Ivy, you are experiencing postpartum depression, he explained gently. It is a common condition that affects many new mothers. It can make you feel distant and disconnected, but the good news is that it is treatable. He prescribed medications and provided a detailed plan for managing her condition. He emphasized the importance of a healthy diet, regular exercise, and adequate sleep. He also suggested therapy sessions with a counselor who specialized in postpartum depression. Osato, your support is crucial during this time, Dr. Aigboje said, placing a hand on Osato's shoulder. She needs you now more than ever. Please be patient, be understanding, and remind her that she is not alone in this. Osato nodded, feeling a mix of relief and determination. He thanked the doctor and helped Ivy gather her things. As they walked out of the hospital, Osato felt a glimmer of hope. They had a plan now, and he was determined to help Ivy through this. Over the next few weeks, Osato followed the doctor's instructions meticulously. He made sure Ivy took her medications on time and encouraged her to attend therapy sessions. He adjusted his work schedule to be more present at home, taking on as many responsibilities as he could to lighten Ivy's load. There were good days and bad days. Some mornings, Ivy would wake up with a bit of energy, showing interest in small tasks. Other days, she struggled to get out of bed, her sadness overwhelming. Osato remained patient and reminding her of the progress they were making. One evening, after a particularly tough day, Ivy broke down. Osato, I don't think I can do this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. What if I never get better? What if I never get to like our child? Osato knelt beside her, taking her hand in his. You are getting better, Ivy. It takes time, but you're not alone. We'll get through this together, one step at a time. One day, Ivy decided to take Efosa to the supermarket. It had been a while since she felt so strong to go out, and she thought a change of scenery might do her good. She carefully placed Efosa in the stroller, making sure she was comfortable, and headed out. The weather was pleasant, with a light breeze that seemed to lift Ivy's spirits slightly. As they walked to the supermarket, Ivy felt a mix of anxiety and determination. She was determined to take this small step towards normalcy, and when they arrived, she grabbed the shopping cart and placed her list on top. She began to navigate the aisles, picking out items they needed at home. At first, everything seemed fine. Ivy was focused on her list, trying to remember everything they needed. She picked out fresh vegetables, some household supplies, and a few treats for herself and Osato. The supermarket was busy, and the sound of people chatting and carts clinking provided a kind of background noise that made her feel oddly comforted. As Ivy moved through the houses, she became more engrossed in shopping. She compared prices, looked for discounts, and made sure she was getting the best deals. For a moment, she felt like her old self, the one who loved to shop and find bargains. But as she turned into the last aisle, something in her mind clinked off. She spotted a shelf of new products and got completely absorbed, examining the labels and reading the descriptions. Time seemed to slip away. The longer she stayed in the aisle, the more she forgot about everything else. After what felt like an eternity, Ivy finally made her way to the checkout. She placed her items on the conveyor belt, paid for her groceries, and headed home. The walk back was eventful, and Ivy felt a strange sense of accomplishment as she entered into the house. When Osato returned home from work, he immediately noticed something was wrong. The house was unusually quiet, and the usual cooing sound of Efosa were absent. He walked into the living room and saw Ivy unpacking the groceries. Ivy, where is Efosa? He asked, panic rising in his voice. Ivy looked around, her face going pale as realization dawned on her. Oh no! I forgot her at the supermarket. Osato's heart raced. He quickly grabbed his keys and rushed out of the house, driving as fast as he could to the supermarket. Osato's heart raced as he rushed to the supermarket. Thought of his precious baby girl alone and scared filled his mind, driving him to push harder on the accelerator. When he arrived, he barely managed to park the car before sprinting inside. The supermarket was bustling with evening shoppers, but Osato's only focus was on finding Efosa. He quickly approached the customer service desk, his voice urgent and breathless. My baby, please, she was left here in a stroller. Have you seen her? The woman behind the desk looked at him with understanding. Yes, sir. We found the baby in a stroller and have been looking for the parent. Please follow me. She led Osato to the security office, where a group of concerned staff members stood around the small crying baby in a stroller. Relief washed over Osato as he saw Efosa, safe but clearly distressed. He pushed forward and scooped her into his arms. It's okay, my darling, daddy is here now, he whispered, kissing her forehead. The store manager stepped forward, looking serious. We checked the CCTV cameras and saw that a woman brought the baby in but left without her. We've already alerted the police. Please go to the nearest station to make a statement. Osato's heart sank further, but he nodded. Thank you for taking care of her. I'll head to the police station now to explain. With Efosa cradled in his arms, Osato hurried to his car and drove to the nearby police station. His mind raced with how he would explain the situation. When he arrived, he walked in and approached the front desk, his nerves evident. My name is Osato. My baby was accidentally left at the supermarket by my wife, who is suffering from postpartum depression. "I've come to explain and take her home," he said, his voice steady despite his anxiety. "Mr. Osato, we understand this was an accident. We just need you to write a statement explaining what happened and provide any necessary documentation about your wife's condition," the officer said, handing him a form. Osato quickly filled out the form, detailing Ivie's struggles with postpartum depression and the events of the day. He included contact information for their doctor to verify the diagnosis. When he was done, he handed it back to the officer. "Thank you, Mr. Osato. We appreciate your cooperation. Please ensure your wife receives the necessary care and you can take your daughter home now," the officer said, offering a sympathetic smile. Relief washed over Osato as he hugged Efosa tighter. "Thank you, officer. We'll make sure this doesn't happen again." As he drove home, Osato couldn't help but feel a mix of emotion. He was grateful that Efosa was safe, but the incident highlighted the severity of Ivie's condition. Something had to change, and it must be fast. When he walked through the door with Efosa, Ivie was sitting on the couch, her face streaked with tears. She looked up as they entered, her expression a mix of guilt and relief. "Osato, I am sorry," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know how I could have forgotten her," she said. Osato sat beside her, holding Efosa close. "It's okay, my love. Efosa is safe, and that's what matters most. But we need to get more help. We can't keep going like this." Ivie nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I want to get better for the both of you." Osato wrapped his arms around her, pulling her into a comforting embrace. "We'll do it together, Ivie. We'll get through this." From that day, things began to change a little. Ivie started taking her medications regularly and followed the doctor's instructions. The support from Osato, combined with the therapy sessions, provided a much-needed foundation for her recovery. Every morning, Osato reminded Ivie to take her pills and encouraged her to engage in the activities recommended by the therapist. The first small sign of progress came a week later when Ivie managed to feed Efosa without prompting. Osato watched from the doorway, his heart swelling with hope as Ivie gently cradled Efosa in her arms, holding the bottle steady. It was a simple act, but it marked a significant step forward. "You are doing great, my love," he said softly, not wanting to disrupt the moment. There were still tough days when Ivie felt overwhelmed and struggled to get out of bed. On those days, Osato stayed home from work, ensuring both Ivie and Efosa were taken care of. He cooked, cleaned, and provided endless emotional support. His presence was a constant reminder that they were in this together. "Remember, it is okay to have bad days," Osato would say, holding Ivie close when she felt discouraged. "We are making progress, one step at a time." Gradually, the tough days became less frequent and the moment of connection grew stronger. Ivie started to enjoy small activities with Efosa, like reading picture books and playing with toys. She smiled more often and her laughter began to fill the house again. These moments were precious and Osato cherished each one of them. One evening, as they sat on the couch, Osato noticed Efosa staring intently at Ivie. She reached out a tiny hand and touched Ivie's cheek, giggling. Ivie's eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of joy. "Ivie, look at Efosa smile at you. She loves you so much," Osato said, watching the bond between mother and daughter strengthen. "I love her too," Ivie whispered, her voice filled with emotion, "and I am so grateful for her." Osato leaned over and kissed Ivie's forehead. "We are getting through this, and you are an amazing mother." With each passing day, Ivie's confidence grew. She began to take Efosa on short walks in the park, enjoying the fresh air and the sound of birds. These outings became a cherished routine, providing a sense of normalcy and happiness. Osato continued to attend therapy sessions with Ivie, supporting her every step of the way. The therapist introduced new coping strategies and together they worked on building a healthy, balanced routine. Ivie learned to recognize her triggers and manage her emotions better, and Osato learned to provide the best support. Months passed and Evie's condition improved significantly. She found joy in small moments with Efosa and started to feel like herself again. The medication and therapy had made a remarkable difference, and the dark cloud that once hung over her began to lift. Osato noticed how Evie's laughter returned, more genuine and frequent, filling their home with warmth. Every morning they had a routine. Osato would prepare breakfast while Ivie dressed Efosa. The simple task of choosing an outfit for her daughter brought immense joy to Ivie. She loved seeing Efosa's eyes lit up at the colorful clothes and the way she giggled when they played together. The park became their regular weekend retreat. They spent hours playing with Efosa, flying kites and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. Evie began to reconnect with old friends, inviting them over for tea and catching up on lost time. Her confidence grew and she started taking on small projects, rediscovering her passion for her business. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Efosa nested between them. Ivy looked at Osato with tears of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, my love, for not giving up on me. I love you so much," she said, her voice full of emotion. "I love you too, Ivy. We made it through together, and that's what matters most," Osato replied, holding both Ivy and Efosa close. Their journey had been far from easy, but the challenges had only strengthened their bond. They had learned to communicate better, to lean on each other, and to find joy in the little things. Ivy and Osato made it a point to celebrate every milestone, no matter how small. They held a big party for Efosa's first birthday, inviting friends and families to share in their joy. The house was filled with laughter and the scent of delicious food and the sound of children playing excitedly. "I can't believe she's already won," Ivy said, watching Efosa smash her tiny cake with glee. "Time flies when you're having fun," Osato joked, wrapping his arms around Ivy. Their journey was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever the future held together. They had weathered the storm and emerged as a resilient, united family, stronger than ever. Each day was a new beginning, filled with love, hope, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Osato and Evie's journey through postpartum depression teaches us several key lessons. First, support from loved ones is crucial during tough times. Seeking professional help can significantly aid recovery, as shown by Evie's progress with therapy and medications. Patience and perseverance are vital, as recovery is a gradual process with ups and downs. Open communication strengthens relationships and helps navigate challenges. Finding joy in small moments can bring profound happiness and aid in healing. Ultimately, their story highlights the power of love to overcome adversity and strengthen family bonds. Thanks for watching this captivating story on African stories and folktales. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stories. Thank you.